Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the ReSee Movies What to Watch podcast, the podcast where members of our ReSee community come to tell you a little bit about who they are, what they're working on, and recommend you movies to watch so that you don't have to spend all day searching through your streaming queues. My guest for today is Jenn M. Choi, who is a friend of mine for quite some time now, actually. Shout out to Brandon Tukalski for introducing us way back when we moved to Berlin almost at the same time, I think. I was like November 2019? No, 2017.
Exactly, yeah. 2017.
Okay, sweet.
But it feels like forever now.
It does feel like forever, and then we just kind of have maintained contact since then, and I've followed your career, and you followed my career a little bit, and in time, our paths have intertwined a little bit, and we have collaborated on some ReSee stuff before. So really an honor to have you on the show, and normally we chat for a little bit before we dive into the topic of the evening, but I think for this episode it makes sense to just announce what we're going to be talking about first, because the subject matter is a little heavier, I would say, than most of our episodes. We are going to be talking about the topic of complex family relationships and family dynamics, which can be a heavy subject for a lot of people, can be triggering for a lot of people. So if you are one of those people, we put the disclaimer out before the episode. Watch it when you're in a good space. Watch it when you feel like you have the emotional energy for it. But we hope that it will be a healing thing for you. So we are going to be recommending movies that feature complex family relationships. And we chose that topic because Jenn knows a thing or two about that. In fact, more than a thing or two. She's really been making it her life's work. I guess originally creating content before you decided to write a whole book about this topic, which I actually have a copy of here. It is called Enough to Rise, and it just came out this year. And so I will give Jenn an opportunity to introduce herself and to tell you a little bit about everything she's working on, including Enough to Rise.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ty, for that introduction. It's an honor to be your friend and now collaborator as well. I'm really excited about this topic, although it's a really deep topic with a lot of grief. It's a very important topic right now as the world is kind of blowing up and going through a lot. I wonder, and many people wonder, how much of the world's strife stems from complex family relationships and complicated family love, and what can healing do? So I think it's actually a really good time for this podcast right now. So a little bit about my story, not too much because it's all right here.
Read the book.
Because it's all right here. But the reason why I wrote a book on complicated family love and complex family relationships and breaking the cycle of generational trauma is because, sadly, like many of you watching or listening, I went through some trauma in my own life. And I ended up writing this book, Enough to Rise, to be a mirror for other people and invite other people to self-reflect, because I went through a super intense journey. Like, I grew up in San Francisco as a child of Chinese immigrants, never feeling that I was good enough. No matter what I did. You know, you're a high achiever as well. Smart guy, high achiever, you know what's up. Performing, people pleasing, self-abandoning. And no matter what, it never felt good enough. It was like an unreachable goal. And then when my parents became sick, I had to confront what I had repressed, which ended up being, as it turns out, when I went to therapy finally, a lot of childhood trauma from neglect and abuse. So the thing is, for many of us, our parents were really trying their best. Or at least that's kind of, we want to give them the benefit of the doubt of that. They were trying their best, but the hard truth is that they could also hurt us. It's been a really painful journey to come to terms with that level of grief for little Jenn, who felt abandoned. But when my parents got sick, I really had to confront it. And unfortunately, I lost both of my parents. And then I became a parent myself. I became a mother. I moved to Berlin. I got married. I had a kid. And it re-triggered all of my childhood trauma. And I realized that actually it came down from a lot of inherited pain across multiple generations and a lot of loss that was silenced oppressed and it wasn't safe to discuss. And so here we are, the generation, at least me, I'm safe to discuss this. And so this is a book about breaking the cycle, about inviting people into this journey so that you can also reclaim your self-worth, meet your inner child, meet your shadows, love your shadows. And it's a memoir meets self-help with self-reflection questions, because as an empowerment coach, I thought it would be most beneficial to invite the reader in immersively in the book and then take people into the emotions and then invite you to really think about their own lives. And I think that's what's really cool about movies as well, which is why I really love what you're doing with ReSee, because ReSee is getting people in contact with movies and in person, and it's rebuilding that kind of connection. And I think we all need a little bit more communal support at this stage in our lives and in the world. So thank you for creating ReSee, and I'm very excited to be on today's episode.
It's an honor, thank you, and thanks for sharing a little bit of your story. I was at your book release party, which was very cool. I had never been to a book release party before. I don't know if I know anyone else who's written a book, so that was super cool. But also it was really awesome and powerful to see all the people in the room who were super engaged and who clearly were touched by you and by the book and are good friends of yours, but also people I think are there for the subject matter. And so it was really, really cool. And as you said, a lot of similarities to movies and the way that these stories allow us to dive deeper into topics that, even though they're, you know, not our stories in the movies, they are just like a mirror that reflect our own experiences. And there are so many films, not surprisingly, there are so many films that touch on the topics of complicated family, because at the end of the day, if you reduce, like you said, if you reduced human problems down to like a few things, family dynamics would probably be one of them. And well, funny story before we hop into the official recommendations, but I remember, you know, I was once having an issue with one of my parents, and not a big one in the end, but I was really mad at him, and I was like, I want to watch a movie and just unplug, and I put on like Ratatouille, and it's like, oh great, it's a rat with daddy issues, and I'm like, yeah, great. I thought I could escape it, but no, that's how fundamental the topic of sort of like family relationships is, and how prevalent it is that you can make kids movies about it, you can make serious adult dramas about it, but it's just one of those things that everyone kind of like relates to. So I think it's a really good topic for us to discuss. But let me ask you a couple more questions about your sort of journey and your process of writing the book. And I'll start with just like, why and how did you end up in Berlin, actually? Because we're both from the US. That's like another culture shock, moving away from your parents, like moving away from where you were raised is kind of a heavy experience. So how did you end up here?
Yeah, wow. I mean, this is a multi-layered question.
Take your time.
I'm going to try to condense it as best as I can. But first and foremost, I fell in love with Berlin when I visited. One of my best friends, Niels, lives here, and I had met him in a hostel in Vienna a long time ago, like, because why not?
As one does.
You know, at the bar, because why not? And we became such good friends, and he lives here. And I immediately fell in love with the city. I'm like, this is a city where it's alive. The nightlife is obviously very lit and very thriving, which that's why a lot of people come here. And I just felt people could really be themselves. And so I came to visit multiple times over the years, and I kept falling in love with Berlin more and more. Because Berlin is a place where, yes, it has a very fucked up history, but it's also a place where people can start anew and kind of rebirth themselves and tap into what they're most interested in. And I think it's a really great background for just exploring who you are. And at the time when I moved, I had lost my mother. So I unfortunately lost my mother when I was 33 years old in 2017. And I was like, I need to start my whole life over. I need to start with a clean slate. And so I came to Berlin, and it's held me since. And now I've created a family of my own. I'm really happy to have made it here. I met cool people like you, people in the ReSee community.
We're glad to have you as well. Now, yeah, I asked that question because I kind of knew that the timing had something to do with that. And, you know, it's like a lot of people do what they need to do to get closure. We did a ReSee event at the Film Noir Palace, actually a Real Love event as well, about closure and seeking closure, and whether should you seek closure. It was more in the context of relationships at that event, but still we need closure from a lot of things, including sort of this family trauma. So moving here sounds like it was a really good experience for you, and now you have a family here, and you seem to be kind of like doing well. So I guess, how does it feel now to be like you literally picked up, moved to another continent, and then you become the parent? And like, how does that, like, is that just blowing your mind still, or like, how do you sort of feel about that part of the journey,
I love this question. I didn't expect it, and I love it so much because I think that becoming a parent has allowed me to truly break the cycle and learn in a safe space how to kind of redo family. We can use the present moment as a portal for our greatest healing. I mean, the present moment is what really matters because we can change it like now. And so it opened up a lot of wounds, but it opened up a lot of healing. And I felt like I was given this life and this child and my husband and my parents and my grandparents and my ancestors, and going back many, many generations in my lineage, to become a voice right now in the present moment for this topic of generational trauma. Because when we heal that in our families, the families of origin or the ones we create, we can really reconnect back to ourselves and divine love. And it's been a really profound, mystical journey, and I am infinitely grateful for it, as challenging as it has been.
Yeah, well said. I mean, as someone who doesn't have kids and is not actually that interested in having them, sometimes I'm just like, what am I missing? Because like everyone who's ever had a child is just immediately like the minute the child is born, you're just like a different person. You're transformed, like chemically, right? Like down to the like neurons. You're a different person once you, especially as a woman who gives birth. It's just like really, it's hard to wrap your brain around how transformative that would be. But it sounds like for you, it kind of helped with the journey of healing, and you got to see things from the parents' perspective a little bit differently.
Absolutely. It gave me so much compassion for my parents. After I had a kid, I was like, fuck, is this what they went through? 2 Chinese immigrants in San Francisco with no money, no childcare, no real grasp of the language, not that many family members around. And I was just floored by the experience, and it gave me so much compassion for them that I can't even explain. But I do want to hit on something that you mentioned about maybe not having, for those, many people who are listening here might also not have kids or not want kids. And I just want to say that breaking the cycle doesn't require having kids at all. You can reparent yourself. Like, a person can get in touch with their inner child and reparent themselves. A person can create chosen family with friends, with partners, with cats, dogs, plants, whatever.
Oh God, I'm a terrible plant parent, so I hope I'm not reparenting with those yet, but I'm trying to get better, so yeah.
So you see, there's a lot of different ways to parent or to break the cycle without actually having a family. And I think it's important to note in this day and age, because we're entering an era where there is less pressure to have families, and families can be in many different ways. And I really just want to support that and celebrate that there's many different ways.
For sure. Yeah, well said. By the way, the concept of reparenting, I'm actually not very familiar with it. Do you want to give a quick sort of overview of what that is for the listeners?
Yeah, so reparenting is a concept where you basically meet your inner child. And when I say inner child, I mean think of a time where you felt really, really hurt when you were a child. For a lot of people, this is when they felt abandoned by a parent, or maybe their parents had a divorce, or something happened, they were sick. And then going back and thinking about that little kid, whatever age that was, and just meeting them and trying to understand what they need, because this inner child lives in us, whether that's at 5 years old, 6 years old, or a culmination of many different years. And when we are not in touch with our inner child will call out for our attention in many different ways because different parts come in to protect the inner child. We form these different, I don't want to call them splinter personalities, but different personas, different parts to protect that child. The overworker, the people pleaser, I mean, so many things, the person who fights all the time. And so we have these protective parts. And so when we're not conscious of what our inner child needs and get in touch with our past trauma, then we're running on programming that can be really, really unhealthy. It can affect our relationships, our bodies, our mental health. It can really blow shit up. So warning, if you want a better life and not blow shit up and, orient yourself to healthier relationships, including with yourself, meeting your inner child and reparenting and being there for little Ty or little Jenn in ways that you felt your needs were unmet is extremely powerful. Is extremely powerful. Next time you're going through something, hey, you're struggling, you're like, what is it that I need? What is it that my child self needs? And really listen and tune into that. And then you can be your own parent for your inner child. And that is so, so, so healing. And it's also very empowering because we have the ability to change like now, right now, in our lives right now. We can't change the past. We can't change what happened between us and our parents or whoever, but we can change our relationship with ourselves.
Damn, I feel like I should be paying you for this. This is kind of like therapy in the studio, but which is awesome. And is that a topic that you actually cover in the book?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a coach, so I'm also available for hire, anyone listening. But this is what I cover in my book. And what I wanted to do was really show what an inner child looks like, your relationship with the inner child, and how patterns come up to protect that child. So in this book, I fuck up over and over and over and over again because I'm human, And so it's about meeting all those parts of myself, not with judgment and not with self-hatred, but with compassion and saying, okay, thank you for serving me. Thank you for protecting me. Thank you for protecting my inner child. And now it's time to be in a different relationship with you because adult Jenn, adult Ty, we can take care of ourselves now. We can choose to take care of ourselves now.
I can't wait to read the book. It's subject matter that I haven't really dared to approach. So it might be a challenge. I might have to set it down a few times, but I promise you I will read it. And from everything I've heard from, attending your book launch to just talking to you about it, I'm really interested. I'm really excited to read it. Actually, even though I haven't read it yet, I have read a passage because you came to a ReSee event and read a passage from the book to the ReSee community. It would have been April of last year. It was our first ever Films for Foodies. And the Spotlight, for those of you who don't know, Films for Foodies is a monthly series that we do that is a supper club for movie lovers. We pick a different world culture every time and we watch a movie from that culture and we eat food from that culture. The movie doesn't necessarily have to be about food. It's really about cultural exploration and cultural values. And the first event that we did was a Chinese showcase. And we featured the film The Farewell, which has a lot to do with the topics of expectations in Chinese American families and also about how to grieve. And it was a really wonderful movie, awesome turnout. And then I knew kind of at that time that you were writing the book. So I invited you to just kind of like come and share a little bit. And we didn't have the most time. The time was very condensed. Lesson learned from the first event. We have to like leave more time for the dinner. But it was cool to have you come and present an excerpt from the book. And I know for a fact that our community members really appreciated it because there were people who came up and complimented me and thanked me for having that as part of the experience as well. So where were you in the actual production of the book at that point? Was it finished or were you still editing it?
I was still editing it. Yeah, and I just want to say, shout out again to ReSee. I thought that was so cool how you guys paired food with movies and everybody was just so into it. I mean, it was like a sold out event almost, it seemed like, in the restaurant.
We were cozy. We were tight in there, yeah.
I mean, to pair food and movie and to have people talk amongst themselves was just really, really cool. Because I think what's missing in film these days, you're either at home and you're just watching it, and then you go on, I don't know, Reddit to kind of get your sense of community, or IMDb or wherever, or you're out at a theater and then you just leave. And I think what's really cool is being in connection with other people, talking with other people, meeting new people. And so I just thought it was a really cool event. And yeah, I was editing then still.
So it's crazy to have, it's awesome to have, talked to you and read an excerpt while it was going on, and then to finally hold the book in my hands. So it's very cool, full circle moment. And again, super excited to read it, and hope some of our listeners read it as well. But let me ask you one final question. What role do movies play in your life? Like, have you always been a big movie lover, or are you kind of like a casual movie watcher? No judgment. This is not like Cinephile podcast where everyone has to be highbrow and go to Sundance and everything. So what role do movies play in your life?
I feel like I'm probably a type B casual movie watcher. I watch some movies. If something wins the Oscars and it's an interesting theme, I'll go watch it. If my husband pitches it to me, because that's what he does. My husband pitches movies to me and then we watch it together. That's kind of who I'm watching movies with right now. Since I have a kid, I'm just not at the theaters a lot. And I think I like to watch old movies, new movies, but I'm not watching them at a super quick rate. And I often watch movies when I either want to relax and just be immersed in something and entertained. Something like, there's this movie I used to watch while high called Malibu's Most Wanted.
Nice.
Like it
is
was
that with
like
Jamie Kennedy or whatever?
I think so, and it's just like, why? When I watch that now, I don't know, but every time I think of it, I have to laugh, and I'm just like, that got me through a really tough time. I think in college where I just needed a break. I needed a mental break. So I either watch movies where I'm just like, I need to escape, I need a mental break, I want to relax, or I swing the opposite direction. And then the movies are like super deep. They're about deep topics, which we're talking about today. But things like The Matrix that like blow open your reality. Because I think movies, like books, have a way of fully immersing you. So you see the world in a new way. And you can really, really, really shift your perspective on things.
Amen. And for sure, it doesn't always have to be super deep. I personally do really like the sort of like emotionally shattering dramas. That is my sweet spot when it comes to movies, but absolutely no judgment if you're more of like the type B watcher, like you said. And we show plenty of movies for those casual movie fans as well. Like we've got a screening of Clueless coming up this Friday. This episode probably won't come out in time, but that's just a movie that like, when people say like, I just watch Clueless over and over again, I'm like, I don't blame you, because every line in that movie is just like a total banger, and it's awesome. And it's like this time capsule from the 90s that brings you back to where you were when you watched it and all of that. So it's cool to know that that Malibu's Most Wanted is that movie for you. Nice.
So funny. I just reminded myself, I haven't watched it in so many years. I'm going to need to pick it up.
You're overdue. You're overdue. Okay, amazing. Thank you for that. And so, yeah, let's dive into the actual movie recommendations. And so again, just as a reminder, the theme is complicated family relationships, complex family dynamics, and we are each going to take turns recommending 3 movies, one at a time, and just talk for a little bit about each movie, give like a quick synopsis of the movie, not the plot, no spoilers, but just to kind of contextualize why we are recommending this movie to our listeners. So would you like to go first, or would you like me to go first, and then you can follow up?
Since you said that you changed one of your movies, now I'm just so curious. I didn't even know your movies, so I'm just like, I'm going to need to know. So you go first.
And I will start with the one that I changed, because it just, again, you'll understand why. So the first film that I'm going to recommend for those who want to find a film on the theme of complex family dynamics is Petite, Maman, which is a French film by Céline Sciamma, who's a fantastic director. She also directed Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which is one of my top 20 movies of all time. But Petite Maman is like, it's a mind-bending movie about kind of like a little bit of a science fiction time travel premise of a little girl who goes with her mother and her father to her mother's childhood home, which they're clearing out because her grandmother just passed. And as her mother's grieving, she goes out in the backyard and finds like a portal to go back in time and meet her mother as a child at the same age. And it's actually filmed with two identical twins, where one of them is the daughter and the other one's the mother, and they strike up this friendship with each other, and it helps them to kind of grieve and process some things. And there's some really, the writing is very tender, and I will admit, you might need to like watch it a couple times. The choice to go with identical twins was actually a little confusing because I kept forgetting who the mom was and who the kid was. But overall, I thought the concept was really cool. And to what you were talking about earlier about sort of meeting your inner child and reparenting your inner child was, that's immediately what came to mind. I just thought of this movie. And shout out to Joachim Trier, because I just saw that he put it in his Letterboxd for favorites. And he said something that really kind of resonated with me. Inside every parent is a grieving child, was like the way that he put it. And so this movie definitely made me think of it. And you know, I won't say too much about the plot, but the point is that the young girl, despite being maybe only like 7 or 8 or something, she starts to appreciate her mother in a different light because she was given the chance to go back and like meet her mother at her age. And really fantastic movie. So I was not planning on recommending that movie, but it is a fantastic movie and a very cool thought experiment on the topic of reparenting your inner child. So I would highly recommend that, and that's where I'll start.
I already want to cry hearing this premise, speaking about transformational movies and mirrors. Wow. Yeah, I'm definitely going to need to watch that. So thank you for the recommendation.
You're welcome. Yeah. So perhaps maybe it's a hard act to follow, but they don't all have to be that, I don't know, art film oriented. You can recommend a film anywhere across the spectrum.
Listen, we're overachievers. Clearly our film recs are going to be lit. Like, obviously. Come on.
We hope you find something.
So on the topic of mother-daughter relationships then, my recommendation would definitely be Everything, Everywhere, All at Once, because there's also portals, time travel, these interesting things.
Accidental time travel theme to this episode. We thought it was going to be families, and it's time travel.
Well, actually, now that I have to take it back. It's not really time travel at least in Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. It's actually parallel lives in the multiverse, so I correct myself. But Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. So the premise is there's a Chinese immigrant mother in America, and she is pulled into a super crazy, hilarious, chaotic, action-packed multiverse adventure where she has to save her family and reality or the world, whatever you want to call it. And as this heroine, she also has to confront or meet alternate versions of herself in different timelines in the multiverse. And she also has to confront the messy relationships in her family with her husband and her daughter. And it is so deep and so good. And also has a Ratatouille nod.
It does have a Ratatouille nod. It has many nods. It's like 3 nods per minute, I feel like. But yeah, incredible movie. Michelle Yeoh is like so fantastic in that movie. It swept the Oscars for a reason. I think it's very popular, so we don't need to like endorse it any more than like being the record-setting Oscar-winning movie of all time is already a pretty strong endorsement. But like you said, despite all the crazy, wacky science fiction, multiverse action, there's really just like a tender family story. And I can imagine as a Chinese-American woman, that hits even harder than it does for someone like me who's watching.
Oh, I'm bawling every time because there's these themes of generational trauma, and I won't spoil it, but it was healing for me to watch a mother-daughter try to find repair.
That's what you want out of a movie, you know. Sometimes you just want some fun and mindless entertainment, but I don't know. For me, movies have a way of kind of like shaking things loose that nothing else has. Like music doesn't really do that the same way as movies for me. Books don't do that the same way. They do provoke thoughts and they inspire me and they help me in other ways. But movies are kind of special when it comes to just like, now I need my heart to be cut up into like a million pieces and rebuilt. And so, yeah, really fantastic first choice. And also a good opportunity for us to plug that we are going to be showing that at an upcoming Real Love event very soon, ideally in May, but let's see how the schedules work out, where we are going to be doing an entire Real Love event around this topic of healing generational trauma and families. So if you're watching this episode and you feel like, it's speaking to you and you would like to be part of the conversation, that would be a great opportunity for you to come to a Real Love event, be part of our community. Jenn will be there. We haven't figured out exactly what we're going to do, but for the most part, the most important thing we're going to do is hold space for our community members and hope that they leave with their hearts kind of full and with some thoughts on their mind. So keep an eye out for the Real Love screening of Everything Everywhere All at Once, hosted with Jenn. We're looking forward to that, and yeah, we'll get it out there as soon as we can. So it's going to be a good one. I've only seen it once. I tend to try to like watch movies once and then wait a really long time to watch them again so that it feels like I'm watching them for the first time when I am. It's overdue for a rewatch, so I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, so second movie I'm going to recommend is also because of something that you said in relation to the book, is that the book features you just like fucking up over and over and over again. And that is kind of the theme of my second recommendation, which is The Wrestler, directed by Darren Aronofsky. And The Wrestler is a film about a kind of a cult hero that's over the hill. He's like a former professional wrestler. I don't know if he's like the WWE type fan, like huge fan base, or just a regional celebrity, but he had a heyday that was all about drug, sex, and rock and roll. He's like a professional wrestler. He's all muscled up, tanned, oily body, all this stuff. All the women love him. And at the sort of height of his fame, he abandons his family, kind of walks out on his young daughter and I assume his wife. And the film picks up when he's like totally over the hill. He's a has-been. No one knows who he is. He's working part-time at a deli, and he's trying to like keep his wrestling career alive with like these backyard brawl trailer. He's living in a trailer park. It's like these backyard brawl type wrestling events. It's kind of like, a fall from grace. And he's just a fuck up. Like everything he touches turns to shit, and he can't seem to get right. But the story kind of picks up while he is trying to reconnect with his daughter, and who's like maybe in her early 20s, I think, in the movie. His daughter is Evan Rachel Wood. It's with Marissa Tomei, who plays like a stripper, exotic dancer at a strip club, which is the only place he can go to find a friend. He basically has to pay for people just to be his friend because he's kind of got no one in his life. And she convinces him to reach back out to his daughter. And so the movie is like him sort of trying to rebuild that relationship. And every time he's so close to like making any progress, he messes it up somehow. And your heart breaks so much for this guy, even though he's so imperfect. It's like I forget what they call it in the film industry, of like the protagonist-centered morality, where you have so much empathy for this character because he's the protagonist, but if you turned it around and you made his daughter the protagonist, you might be watching this film being like, cut this man out of your life, get rid of him, like never let him back into your life. But because he's the protagonist, you can't help but like cheer for him as he's trying to like rebuild the relationship with his daughter. And obviously you're gonna have to watch the movie to see how it all plays out, but your heart just breaks for someone. And if you've ever sort of like been unsure of whether you can find it in your heart to forgive someone, I think it's a good movie for that reason, because it's just like, it's just very painfully human to watch someone just make mistakes like that and just know that we all make mistakes. And you're just cheering for this guy. And so that's my favorite Darren Aronofsky movie, actually. And I really highly recommend it. It's very touching and understated, and just feels very human and very lived in, and I would 100% recommend it. So.
Damn. Okay, noting that, because I haven't watched that one, and now I'm just like feeling a lot also.
We can take breaks. We can take breaks in the filming of this episode.
A lot here.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, we're all imperfect. I mean, we come from imperfect families. We are imperfect, and it's not about being perfect, and it's not about not fucking up. It's about like owning when we do make mistakes, or we are running on our programming, and meeting that part with love and saying, okay, I take accountability and this is how I'm going to change, and I'm not a bad person, and not having shame about it. And so I am so intrigued by what you said about The Wrestler. I'm really looking forward to watching that for sure.
It's a great movie, awesome cast. Mickey Rourke is like fantastic. There were multiple Academy Award nominations, I think, coming out of the movie. So not that the Oscars is everything, but you know, this is a movie that's worth your time. So check it out.
So interestingly, speaking about Darren Aronofsky, my next recommendation is by Darren Aronofsky.
Get out of here. We did not plan that, by the way. That is not planned.
We didn't plan it. Yeah. We did not actually talk about our movie recommendations. I'm surprised by yours. I have not watched the ones that you've recommended so far, so I'm really excited to watch them. But Darren Aronofsky also made The Whale. I could be wrong.
No, you're 100% right.
I am right.
Yep.
And so he also made The Whale. And when we were thinking about complicated family love, complex family dynamics, I was like, this movie hit.
Fantastic movie.
This movie hit because it's about a reclusive English teacher who is morbidly obese because he has like binge eating disorder and mental health issues, and he's trying to reconnect with his estranged teenage daughter. And there are so many layers in this movie to explore that theme of what love could look like, what we experienced in our families of origin, whether our families accepted us as who we are or not, and the devastating impact of maybe not being accepted by our family and what that could lead to, and how we can perpetuate that hurt in our families as well. And I'm not trying to spoil it, but there is so much grief in this movie. There's so much depth. The fact that Brendan Fraser became, with, what is it, a 300-pound suit, whatever it was, a many hundreds-pound suit, became this character, well, the whale, was just mind-blowing. He won Best Actor deservedly for this film, and I was completely blown away by it. And you really feel for this guy, like in The Wrestler. I'm starting to see a theme here.
For sure.
With his movies. I'm going to have to read about Darren Aronofsky's childhood. Darren Aronofsky, if you are watching this, I am sorry, but I am going to have to find out more about your family. I'm genuinely curious because these movies have serious psychological depth. And so it sounds like The Wrestler and The Whale have very similar themes about hopefully repairing relationships or trying to repair relationships. I also think it's interesting how in The Whale there's a relationship with the body and how what we carry and any pain that we've experienced can also be held in the body as well. And the relationship we have with our bodies, not only the relationship we have with our family members, but also ourselves and our bodies.
Yeah, awesome movie. Yes, there's so much overlap between those two, actually, which I never really thought about until now. So I'm super glad that you picked that movie. Absolutely blew my mind when I watched it. Brendan Fraser is fantastic. That was the same year as Everything Everywhere All at Once, because like A24 just swept the Oscars entirely. It was the first time one studio had won like every major category at the Oscars, because Everything Everywhere All at Once won everything except Best Actor, and then Brendan Fraser won for The Whale for Best Actor. But yeah, no, there is definitely a common theme between these movies of multiple common themes of the relationship with the kids and forgiveness, and also forgiving yourself, and how trauma shows up in the body and everything. There's a lot of commonalities between these films. So yeah, not to say that they're all the same. You need to watch all of them, because the nuances are where the real sort of power and poetry are. So one of them may end up being not for you, and the other one may end up being what sort of rearranges your molecules. So you gotta watch them and check them out. Okay, now I have a tough decision to make. Which of my last... So I had another film that I bumped to bring Petite Maman into the picture, so now I need to figure out which one I'm gonna go with. But I'm gonna pick a film that is less about the topic of forgiveness and more about the theme or the topic of like how your relationship with your parents changes over time, and in particular, how we have to struggle to balance like our futures and our own lives with the relationship with our parents. And so I'm gonna go all the way back to the 1950s to recommend Tokyo Story from Yasujirō Ozu. I don't know if you've ever seen it or heard about it. It's definitely a cinephile pick. It's like been ranked as the greatest movie of all time in multiple, highbrow polls or whatever. I'm not really a highbrow kind of movie person, but this one tracks. It can be very hard to watch movies from older generations. I will admit that. Like, the pacing is quite slow, and Ozu was very famous for these camera techniques where all of the actors would turn directly into the camera and read their lines. So it feels a bit weird when we're so used to like American snappy editing and this kind of thing, but it is 100% worth a watch. And what I always recommend to people when they watch older movies is to watch them as sort of a time capsule or like a history lesson. So you look at it through the lens of like, what were things like then in comparison to now? And I think it makes the subject matter a little bit more approachable, other than like going into a movie from like 1950s Japan and being like, what do I know about 1950s Japan to relate to this? But the story is of an aging Japanese couple that lives in the countryside who is going to visit their 3 kids that live in Tokyo. They live at home with their widowed daughter-in-law, and then they go to Tokyo to visit their 3 adult children who all have their very busy lives. And when they get there, they just find that their like kids have no time for them and don't really have any interest in sort of spending time with them. And they're not dumb. They pick up on the fact that they're treated like a burden, and the kids are all kind of like talking to each other about like who's gonna spend time with them today. And one of them's like a doctor, and he's got his medical practice. The other one's got her business. She's like a hairdresser or whatever. And the movie is just like, it's painful to watch because you can tell that the parents know the game, they know what's going on, and they are stuck between sort of like feeling the hurt of being neglected and the politeness of Japanese culture that like prohibits them from really saying anything, so they're just kind of going along with it and trying not to be a burden. But the thing that makes Tokyo Story so special, and actually the filmmaker Ozu was famous for doing this, is he tells stories about Japanese society through the lens of a single family unit, and that kind of became like a tradition in Japanese cinema as well. So what it's all through the lens of one family, but it's really a story of the changes in generations that took place in Tokyo and also in many cities where children from like villages they moved to the city for work. They lived in this more industrialized society. They didn't have the connection to their culture and that parochial life that they had, that their parents had. And so their parents kind of raised them with this expectation that they're going to sort of take in that local culture and stay close to the village and take care of them as they get older. And then the world changed. And then these kids have to move to Tokyo and start their own lives and be far away from their parents. And they kind of like break the cycle in a way. And it causes this rift in the generations that causes sort of problems in the family. And that's something that I think our generation can relate to a lot. Like my parents were both like nomads, kind of. my dad's from Jamaica. He moved to the United States. My mom's from Ohio. She moved to New York City. They met there. They moved a lot. We moved a lot as kids. So I think when it was time for me to move to Berlin, it was easier than most families. I didn't have like deep roots in any one place, I would say. But for sure, I still think all the time about the fact that I'm like, damn, I am so far away from my parents. And I like don't find time to talk to them all the time, especially my dad, because he's not like a texter or anything. Like my mom can text, but my dad's kind of like a little too old for that. And so watching Tokyo Story hit home for me because it's just like, it reminded me a lot of my own life and how I keep myself way too busy. And at times I don't find time for the people that I should find time for, including my parents. So, which is not necessarily my fault, you know? It's just like the world has changed between our parents' generation and our generation, but this movie is really a very honest sort of assessment, not a critique, of this challenge that modern people face in sort of remaining connected to their culture, remaining connected to their parents, while also trying to build lives for themselves in this crazy world. So highly recommend Tokyo Story. If you're not the kind of person who can watch older films and really take them in, then do a little bit of research on Japanese culture before you watch it. I think it will actually also help to make it a little easier to follow and everything. But it is absolutely a movie that's worth watching and will make you think about your own family dynamics.
I, once again, am very compelled to watch your movie recommendation because this obviously hits home as we're between generations. And there's something that you said that I kind of want to touch upon. It's never too late to talk to your parents. And I think that's the beauty of movies like this, where you feel, oh man, maybe something's got to change. And like now. Right now. Like right now. After this
I am for
podcast,
sure.
are you calling
I am
somebody?
100% calling both of my parents after this episode because it's been a long time, and as I was preparing for this podcast, I'm like, shit, it has been weeks since I called either of my parents, and that is terrible. So
call them while you can, while they're still alive. If I can say anything. I would give anything to call my parents now.
Yeah.
And they're not here anymore. So anyone who's listening, and you, hey, you got to use the opportunity while you can, even though some relationships can be very difficult. And I know some people here who are watching or listening might be estranged from their families, and that must be really difficult, and just acknowledging that it's not always so easy to call. So when you can, do.
Yeah.
If you can't, and you got to protect your own boundaries because you're estranged, we get it. We get it. We get it.
Amen. So do what's right for you, but keep an open mind, I guess.
Speaking about Japanese culture and how that movie was kind of an exploration and kind of gave you an understanding about Japanese culture, my next and last movie recommendation is Coco, the Pixar movie. Something lighthearted, fun. I even watched it with my kid. And basically, it takes place in Mexico. And it is a boy who really dreams of becoming a musician, but his family won't let him for reasons of inherited pain, let's say. And so through his journey of trying to become a musician and chase his dreams, despite his family saying no, he enters the land of the dead. And in the land of the dead, he gets to meet some wonderful spirits and ancestors, and goes on a journey to understand the mysterious things that happen in his own family's past. And I love this film so much because, one, it's like very rich in color and culture. I love Mexican culture. Growing up in America as well, you know, it's
In San Francisco, no less, one of the most Mexican big cities, I would say.
Amazing, rich, joyous culture, just astounding, mystical, beautiful. And what I love about this movie is it reminds us to reconnect with our ancestors, because our ancestors and learning our family histories and stories have treasures. They don't only have trauma, but they also have gifts that we can reclaim. And in Chinese culture, where I'm from, we are very connected to our ancestors because our ancestors are the bloodline to the divine. And I feel these days in Western culture, we've become more separated from our ancestors. A lot of people don't know their family history, don't honor the ancestors as much. But there's so much there that we can reclaim and get in touch with, and have compassion for and understanding of where these dynamics originate from. And so it's a really, really beautiful film about also being your authentic self.
Nice.
It's just so precious.
Does your son like it?
Yeah.
Does he have the attention span for movies, or is he just kind of like bopping in and out?
Yeah, he does. He does. He's
Nice.
a modern child. He's a modern child, so he can be on screens. And he loves the movie. And yeah, Coco. He's like, Coco, like Coco? Just the other day, I was talking to him about something, like a grandma or something, or an ancestor. He's like Coco?
The kids, they understand, they get it, and it's funny. We like started with a reference to Ratatouille, and we ended with another Pixar movie in Coco. But I think it's awesome to, must be so awesome to watch movies with your kids. Like I love showing my favorite movies to my loved ones because it's like the only thing better than watching a movie for the first time is watching a movie that you've seen with someone who has not seen it, and then they end up loving it, and you're like, yes, let's go. Now we have so much to talk about. So it must be so cool to like share a movie with your son, and also have it be a movie that touches on your work and on your own journey. And I hope that as he grows up, that will be something that he relates to in the context of understanding you and you and understanding him. That's a really cool final recommendation. Also, we didn't plan any of this, but can I just say, I'm also very happy that our movies were diverse in terms of culture. And I will say that the movie that I didn't get to mention, that I was going to mention, is Spike Lee, He Got Game, which I'll have to recommend on a different podcast, but is a black family with their black American family. And I'm really glad that without planning it, our movies were pretty inclusive, I would say. You can't include everyone in only 6 movies, but we covered a lot of ground with our movie recommendations, which maybe it's just a result of having 2 non-white people on a podcast. What a rare thing. But no, it's really important because ReSee is entirely built on diversity and inclusivity. The reason that our logo is rainbow is because we want there to be something for everyone in our programming. And in general, if you only look at sort of certain stories through a specific cultural lens, then you might not feel seen and you might not connect with the movies. Not to say that you need to find connection in your own culture, because I love world cinema and there are movies from countries that I've never even been to that have hit me like, whoa, So it doesn't necessarily have to be your own culture, but that there is something really powerful about seeing your own culture reflected on screen. That I think it's really nice to branch out and watch movies from other cultures and other languages and get over your issue with subtitles if you have one, American listeners. But I also thought it was really cool when you were talking about the connection to the ancestors, because I know many Mexican people as well who say that like Mexicans have a truly unique relationship with death and with their ancestors. They have the Day of the Dead, which is a Mexican holiday, which is what Coco is kind of revolving around as well. But just a deep connection to their ancestors as well. And if there's another culture that comes to mind instantly when I think of connection to your ancestors, it's Chinese culture as well. So really cool that you brought that up as a Chinese American living in, or who was born and raised in San Francisco, because it's like a city where Chinese and Mexican culture are probably the 2 most prominent ethnic minorities. So yeah, the roads cross through the ancestors in San Francisco. It's pretty cool.
For sure, you grew up in a very multicultural city as well.
New York City, crazy multicultural, in a mixed race family, and it's just like it's so normalized. Like I tell my friends all the time, like we had huge classes because New York City, my elementary school classes were like 35 kids, and probably like 20, 25 nationalities like in one class, which is crazy. And then like I talked to Brandon in particular, it's like, damn, I think I had like 1 brown kid in my school, It's just like, it's crazy that we grew up in this super diverse areas because it's special and it gives us a different perspective on world culture and how we can find similarities between cultures and everything. That came through in the movie recommendations. Okay, so before we wrap up, let our community know where they can find you, how they can support you, what you're working on right now, because I think this episode is really going to resonate with a lot of members of our community. I can't wait to get it out there, and I know for a fact they're going to message me and be like, where can we see more of Jenn? So where can they find you?
That is so sweet. Thank you so much for this opportunity. To anybody who is part of the ReSee community, new or old, you can find me on Instagram at Jenn M Choi. You can find me on my website, www.jennmchoi.com. And if you're curious how to write my name, it's CHOI. For those watching the video, I'm holding it up right now. The best way to support me at this moment is to get a copy of my book, Enough to Rise, because supporting this book is supporting yourself. I wrote this for you. I wrote this for you. I wrote it for me, yes, but I also wrote it for you. And it is my belief that individual healing leads to collective healing. And we're just at that place right now where we really have to reevaluate our relationships with each other and come to a greater understanding and self-compassion and compassion across many different cultures, across many different borders. We don't want to be at war with each other. We're more the same than we are different. I mean, if you take these films that we were talking about, I mean, they just had simply universal themes, and this is the human experience. So I aspire to create a movement with this book. I'm currently trying to embody what I've learned in this book, and this is for all of us. This book, Enough to Rise, is for all of us to rise together collectively, because we cannot do this alone. Yeah, that's what I'll end with. We can really, really support each other, and that's what we need right now. And we need more community spaces like ReSee.
Amazing. Read it or you're not allowed to come to any more ReSee events. I'm just kidding. But I really do hope that it finds some of our listeners. And I'm really excited to read it myself. Jenn, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It was a pleasure. I think we both need like an emotional breather for a second after recording this episode. But really, really, really glad that you came on and we can make this happen. Thank you for sharing everything.
Thank you so much.
And thanks to our community for listening. We'll catch you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye. See you at the movies.